Hey everybody, this is Balance from WCReplays.com bringing you another audio commentary for the site. It's still copyrighted, so don't steal it. So, today I'm going to be bringing you a Night Elf vs. Undead matchup, one of the ones I've been hoping to get around to for a while. This is a replay from Stars War, which happened fairly recently between two teammates, Rain and Suho, both from World Elite. So this is a game between WE Suho and WE Rain that takes place on Twisted Meadows, and I'll be watching it from Suho's perspective. I think this is actually kind of an interesting game. It's a little different. The outcome of the game is a little non-standard in terms of how the Night Elf plays in the late game, and I think there's actually a good amount to be learned from it, so hopefully this will be a good commentary for you guys. So go ahead and get this replay paused at the 15-second mark. One-time speed, Fog of War off, again from Suho's perspective. And unpause in 3, 2, 1, go. Timing is at 19, 20, 21. Alright. So, Night Elf vs. Undead on Twisted Meadows. There have been a number of popular strategies in this particular matchup. You see players like Satini and Soccer doing Warden and sometimes Demon Hunter, so the Night Elf racial heroes on this map, but of course the predominant strategy, as traditionally played by Moon himself, is to go Beastmaster first in this particular matchup. The disadvantages of Beastmaster being that you don't have Mana Burn or you don't have Shadow Strike, so you don't have a way to actually pressure that Death Knight. But if you make a good number of archers and creep aggressively, you can still get your creeping done and level up that Beastmaster and have a fairly good-sized army to help fight off the Ghoul Rush and help get an expansion up. Just a little tagline with regards to the choice of racial heroes versus Beastmaster in this matchup, but you guys probably are familiar with the trade-offs. One thing you'll notice with the way that Suho does his build is that he sends out 2 Scout Wisps fairly early. As I've mentioned in my last couple of commentaries, one of the things that sets apart top players from amateur players, and even medium-level professionals from high-level professionals, is the quality of their scouting. So that's something that you should all be paying very close attention to when you watch these pro replays. You'll notice that with Suho's upper left wisp, when he finds Rain's base, the thing that he does with that wisp is he then places it at a nearby protected tree or relatively protected tree, so that wisp will have easy access into Rain's base without actually being threatened. And of course, the tree that he chose for that particular case was a little too exposed, and he was found. But generally speaking, that's the theory. You want to leave the wisp relatively near the base so you can move it in and out and see what the player is up to. And meanwhile, you want to have other Scout Wisps at opportune places around the map, like the one that Suho has placed near the tavern on the lower side of the middle. And you'll notice that what he does is he wants to make sure that he gets some creeping off right at the start of the game, so he goes on the aggressive with his Beastmaster, sending it into Rain's base to try to pressure Rain a little bit and make sure that Rain doesn't creep himself, while leaving a Quill Beast behind to tank this green camp. But Rain's onto him and has found Suho's creeping attempt, and so Suho will now do everything he can to pressure the Death Knight, which is always key in early game fights versus Undead. The more damage you can do to the Death Knight, the harder it's going to be for them. So this is just a traditional cat and mouse game of making sure the creep doesn't get below 100 health while the Death Knight is in range. And you see Suho does a good job there of keeping pressure on the Death Knight and allowing him to get the last hit on that creep. That's just takes a little bit of practice, but very doable. And so you'll notice again, Suho goes on the offensive with his Beastmaster, trying to limit Rain's creeping and to make sure that he knows what Rain's doing, while he leaves his units behind to creep. And if you notice what he did at that orange creep camp, a lot of people have trouble with Quillbeast at this creep camp because of the Null Warden's Purge. He sends the Quillbeast in to tank the Overseer, but actually attacks a Warden with an Archer first. And as a result, the Wardens focus the Archer and the Quillbeast is tanking. So you can watch that again to see exactly how he did it. But that's something that you should all know how to do if you're going to play Beastmaster on this map. It's important to be able to creep those camps. And so now we get into the standard situation of the Beastmaster Archer versus Ghouls. And Rain does a good job there of picking off an Archer. You have to be as careful as possible to keep your archers out of range, and make sure that you have as many Quillbeasts up as you can, so that you have a good-sized army. And it's fairly important not to lose archers at this early stage. You know, a lot of people think that it's okay as long as they get their dryads out, but if you lose too many archers at this stage, then they can come in very quickly at tier 2 with either a heavy gargoyle army or what's becoming pretty popular with Undead players right now, which is switching to fiends and maybe a statue, statue or two, and coming in right at your tier 2 when you've lost a number of archers and don't quite have your dryads out yet, and it can be a very ugly fight for you. So you'll notice what Suho's doing here is he's focusing this Death Knight very hard, which, like I mentioned before, is a very, very important strategy versus Undead early, but he did it at the expense of a number of his archers. You see he lost about 3 archers there. And so this is one aspect of the replay that I would probably not recommend you to copy. Suho went on the aggressive, trying to pick off that Death Knight, but the Death Knight actually got away, even though it's very low hit points, and Suho lost a number of archers in the process, and he's actually going to be on the defensive for a lot of this game because of that. And it's important to play that fight as conservatively as possible, just continuing to pull back and trying to get free hits on the Undead player. Because you want to make sure you have a lot of archers for whatever they throw at you at tier 2. And Rain very cleverly has noticed Suho's Tree of Life building over on the right hand side of the map, and he just cancelled that. One thing to bear in mind is that Undead players will often know that you're creating that Tree of Life. So it's important to keep an eye on where their ghouls are so that you can try to protect it in the event that that happens. Suho was nearby and is able to pick off a ghoul, but
Research finished.
he wasn't able to stop the canceling of the Tree of Life. Another thing that Night Elf players sometimes do in this particular instance is, instead of putting the Tree of Life right along the trees, in this case on the right-hand side of the map, they'll put it near the green camp on the lower side of the map, near the lower right-hand quarter mine. And the Undead oftentimes won't check that position, especially if you're keeping them something close to on the defensive. And so you notice again that Suho is very aggressively focusing the Death Knight, but Rain in this case has picked up a healing potion. But he's doing everything he can to continue pressuring that Death Knight, while pulling his archers back around his Tree of Eternity, which is always a good idea. Suho also has made good use of his Wisp there to detonate the skeletons and to burn some of the Death Knight's mana. So a pretty good defensive job by Suho, but again, he did lose a couple of archers. And now Rain has a Fiend out, and with the Naga, you can see that he's probably going for a pretty heavy tier 2 push. One thing you'll notice that Suho did do was at his tier 2, he made his Ancients of Lores immediately, which is very, very important. If Suho hadn't have done that, his Ancients of Lores might have been cancelled in that push, or if they had been badly positioned. If the Lores had been out in the front, they might have been cancelled in that push, and then he would be in terrible position right now, with Rain already fairly into his tier 3 tech. Rain could easily come back with a Lich and like one Abomination when Suho has only just completed his Ancients of Lore. And then that's a very bad situation for the Night Elf. So you want to make sure that your Lores are in good position and that they're near the back of your base. A lot of this Undead matchup is a question of fighting off this tier 2 push and doing a good job of it, and not losing your expansion in the process. It's important that if you're going to be staying tier 2 and making dryads, and especially staying with one hero, that that you have the resources to produce a large enough army to beat whatever the undead throws at you, and so you want to make sure that you don't give up on your expansion attempt if this is the strategy that you're going. Sometimes you can get away with beating undead without an expansion if you go tier 3, have several heroes, have bears, rejuvenation staff,